It is Saturday, Sunday, July 23rd, 24th, depending on where you are in the world. This is the Bucky call. We're doing Oblivion. We're doing design discipline, Oblivion, or Utopia. Manu, how are you feeling and what do you anticipate to get out
Well,
of
I feel great this morning. I feel happy. You know, I'm ready to receive, to transmit, to store, to recycle, and to progress. So that's the way I feel. What I expect that we progress on what we've been doing. I think we've been discussing some very fundamental and important concepts in terms of design discipline and its application. That's what I expect. Joe, how do you feel? What do you expect?
I'm feeling pretty good. A little bit tired, a little bit frustrated because I really can't find my Bucky book, where I kept all my notes. So it's been about a week now I've been without it. So I'm going through withdrawal a little bit here. But I am actually I'm looking forward to this evening's conversation. I'm always happy to see everyone here showing up and sharing their opinions. So I'm ready to receive as well. I do believe we are covering some very important topics. And sometimes they get through and sometimes they don't, but the more I keep trying, then the better off I'm going to be. So that's what's coming up for me. And my friend, my motivation friend, how are you?
Thank you, Joe.
How do you feel? What would you like to take away from today?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Looking forward to today as usual. Just a couple of things. One is last week, I think, Steve, you brought up this idea of the wisdom age. I'm really looking forward to see how this 1440 degrees fits into that, and the rest of the concepts that's coming up, you know. And the other thing I'm also looking forward, this is what's happening in KL, is that, you know how we are always fighting to, it's a fight with parents, yeah. A lot of the things that the kids love and want to do in Asia is considered a waste of time. And the parents, they stop their kids because of exams and so on. So what we've been working on is to give value, right, to whatever it is that they enjoy doing, so that the parents can see value. My hip hop team, from nothing, together with the school, created a whole ecosystem and a whole industry out of it for Malaysia. Previously, there was no future if you dance, yeah. So much so that, hi Susan, and so much so that we've got we are now collaborating with Korea and Japan and China and so on. So this is just to update all of you because we're so excited about it. One of the largest entertainment management companies, the YG Entertainment Group, they manage Blackpink, one of the biggest girl bands or bands that came out from Korea, and they were touring the US, and they were even performing on Coachella and things like that, right? So they are here in KL, and the team, not just the dancers but the management team, they're here in KL. The auditions are happening in Malaysia, and our school is very involved, and I'll get to meet them later. Yeah. So that is really exciting for us because there's a lot of collaborations going on with their group, right? Yeah. But I'm also looking for one more thing, because Steve, Manu, Joe, Susan, I really would love to hear your stories as we discuss all these concepts and Bucky and how it has how you've used it in your lives. You know, if along the way we can share that, I'll be so thrilled to hear from you. Okay, right. And Susan, how do you feel and what do you expect out of today?
I feel very fortunate to be here tonight. I apologize for blipping out during last week's call. There was a family health emergency, but my mom's husband just got home from the hospital earlier today, so that part's good. And it's funny, you're asking for some of us to say how it's played out in our life. And I feel like you are the most exciting example of how Bucky plays out. With all the leverage that you have working with young people and with businesses, you're just in a very exciting point.
Oh, thank you.
I'm excited to see how I can expand my perspective and also to learn better ways to apply. And are we to Steve now?
Yes.
Steve, how do you feel and what would you like to get out of today?
Well, I'm very excited about today. It's like coming home, and I'm real excited. We're doing the Oblivion or Utopia thing, which really means it's up to you and to me and to our neighbors. And we're learning those principles. We talked about universe last time. We started talking about humanity this time. And we're going through those 14 key definitions that he says are critical for this design discipline concept. And I too, Anne, I'm trying to figure out, I mean, I've used the metaphor of 1440 degrees of the two tetrahedrons, the convex, the concave, the visible, the subvisible. And I've taken that metaphor and applied it in several aspects of my life, but I can't say that I don't think I have any, I mean, it's just because I've been working hard to do it. And the more I look at it, the more I see. It's kind of like learning how to think for me and learning how to think in deeper levels. So what a challenge. We probably need to talk about how we're going to all be able to share that. And maybe that is a cool topic that we could maybe, have somebody share each week, like spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about how they've applied the principles. And maybe we could do that as like an ongoing thing and people let us know. I'm not sure, Anne. You suggested it, so we're kind of open for how we would pull that off.
Okay, I think it's also because like realizations in your industries and seeing how what works and what doesn't work, and maybe some things that don't work and you realize it's because of one of the principles that got broken, or that was not being that sort of thing would be really wonderful, because I know that all of you have got very different you're in different industries and your backgrounds are all very different. So that would be really, really exciting for me to hear it from your perspective in your industries, Yeah.
Okay.
And like Susan in medicine, and Joe, you're with the defense department, and Manu is with hold on, Manu is a lawyer, right? Did I get
No.
that right?
The geologist.
Never.
Oh, John is the lawyer. Sorry.
No, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a lawyer.
Manu-
Lawyers get in his way. Lawyers get in his way.
I thought you were a geologist.
Well, I work as a geologist I work in the oil industry, in exploration for a long time. But my basic training is electromechanical engineering, petroleum engineering, and then I did some pretty deep study of economics.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Micro or macro?
The whole that.
Wow.
In terms of economic policy and management.
Interesting.
I spent some time, but it's something that's not important in my life.
I wonder if there's a way we could do that. Let's talk about how we can do that, how we can highlight.
May I share that how I do it practically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In my life in these days, for the past probably 15 years, I've been living in kind of, one of my mainstays has been in real estate to find opportunities to do what I call repositioning. That is value add, repositioning, and building a portfolio. Right? And then reinvesting the proceeds of that into things that create what I call a balanced and weighted portfolio for me. That's what I've been doing for a long time. But coming to the principle, how I apply them on, is the first principle that I always apply is the principle of duality. So nothing exists on its own. When you do something, there's always at least, at minimum, a consequence to it. And how I look at that consequence is to assume it, to take responsibility for it. You get what I'm trying to say? So the principle of duality is always important in terms of when I do something, I like to see that I've, to the best of my abilities, anticipated the consequence of what I'm doing. You get what I'm trying to say? And then secondly, when you do that and you put those into in many directions, then you start creating a matrix of stability around what you're doing. Something that is anti-entropy. And it goes with, for example, refusing to kind of be in the satraps and in the clutches of what I call ideology, or what some people refer to as culture or tribal. Yes, there are values. Everything, there is nothing that is only virtuous. Let's just put it from that point of view, right? So you have to be able, in any context, to sift the values you adhere to from time to time and adapt them in order to espouse and to apply what you have come to discover as, or to receive new principles, right? I can't just say, because culturally it's been said that you do this is like that, and I get myself prisoner of that. So those are the way, and also in terms of relationships, to shape, to be less biased socially, and to kind of understand, because you understand, so some of those deep principles, your position, the position that you take, are sometimes a little bit altered compared to what you have done if you weren't aware, if you weren't educated that way. So that's the way I see it. It's not some stuff that is just magic. It is also the me adapting all the time, on my journey of discovering, receiving, revising what I've got in terms of those general principles and how they apply in my environment. So maybe it's not very exciting, but that's the way I've been applying it. And I can talk about it on many, many subjects. And when you talk about it, sometimes, it is that, you come across, there will be some conflicts in your relations, but you have to be prepared to deal with those, right? By temperance, by persuasion, by demonstration of what you do yourself. I mean, the best lesson, the best way to communicate is actually by doing. Because then you have a skin in the game, you take some risk, and you are applying what you are saying, you put in your mouth where your money is. So I would say one of the applications is to put my money where my mouth is. Yes. And that's what I summarize as some application of integrity.
Thank you, Manu.
Good. Let's talk about this more, about how we can share. I'm listening to Manu talk, and I hear what he's done, and I see somewhat similar as I've done. I think we're on this call because we have the Bucky vibe. I think that we're on this call because the ones who are here just don't want to accept things on their face value, and we're willing to look underneath a little bit. And that's what Bucky invites us to do, you know? Yeah, concave, look underneath. What's inside that little thing? And I think that's why we're all here. So we ought to talk more about how we're going to do that, Anne. So I'll keep it down on the notes and I'll report back to you. Okay. Any other comments or questions right now? Thank you for sharing, Manu. Any other comments or questions? Okay, let's go ahead and begin our
Would be interesting to go through ephemeralization at some point and apply it to like a lot of different problems. I mean, you know, just to see how that principle or that,
yeah.
you know, would work. I mean, I think that that's a really powerful concept. And if you're applying it to a design, like kind of a problem, it would be, it really forces you to think in design terms, but it also really forces you to think in terms of generalized principles.
But Joe, what does ephemeralization mean to you practically?
Practically,
Yes.
means doing more and more with less and less. But
What is it
practical,
that you know?
what's that mean to me?
Yeah. Have you been able
You know,
to?
what is it? What is it that you know practically that is that? I would suggest that it is extreme leverage. The practical, you know, like the basic, the very, very visual manifestation of ephemeralization is leverage.
So I think about that as one of those ways where you could like almost feel a logarithmic function, that there's, you know, a little bit of leverage and there's more leverage and there's more leverage. And ephemeralization is almost, I don't want to say it's unobtainable, but it's almost unobtainable. Like you're getting closer and closer and closer, but I don't know if in this incarnation we ever achieve it. I almost think
No.
I think that's God territory right there in my, it's beyond human. It's beyond incarnate human energy to get all the way there. I think that's when you're across the line. So for me, that's something that I have this sense of almost the gravity that holds you back because our feet are on this planet to almost get there, but not quite.
And maybe ephemeralization is the next step. And as far as I go, it's always the next step. It is the unachievable.
But it's interesting. The leverage aspect of it is something I had not really thought, because my mind, when I hear leverage, it really kind of goes in a different direction. My mind.
Tell me where it goes, because I love divergent definitions.
So my definition, like when I hear leverage, I honestly think of like almost financial leverage.
Okay, so doing more and more with less and less. So I can buy $1 million.
No, the original leverage has always been mechanical leverage. it was
like
fetching water
Archimedes
from,
kind of thing.
Yes, it
Like
was fetching water from the borehole, from the water hole. Fetching, you know, really practically. That was.
Go, Anne.
I've got something because exactly what you said, Susan. I think I can't recall where I read this, you know, or came across this. You know how people are talking about space travel. They've actually figured a way to do it, like the science behind it. But of course, we are not able to get there yet. But the science behind traveling from one planet to the other is actually to leverage on the Earth's, the planet's, you know, their gravitational pull, right? So that the spin, right? Yeah. So what they said was, if you can get into the orbit, using the orbit of each planet, right? So out there is no friction in space, correct? So if you use, like in fact, they said that you should launch the spaceships and all that outside of the Earth's atmosphere in space itself, and you launch it, it's frictionless, so you use a lot less energy, right? And then you get into one of the orbits of the you know, this celestial, what do you call
stationary orbit? Yes.
Yes.
station.
So you go into the orbit of one of the planets, and then you use the orbit to catapult, that ship to wherever you're heading, and then you get into the other orbit, and that's how you actually can. I guess that's the leverage that Susan is talking about. We cannot imagine it happening within our lifetime, right? Yeah.
But and let's just take what you said.
Mm.
You use the thrust of a rocket
Mm-hmm.
to do what? To anti-entropically degravitize, like get out of the attraction, the friction, because there is friction of air in everything. You have to get out of that. That friction, you have to vanquish it and get into orbit, right?
Yeah.
So you are using principle. For example, what is thrust? It's action, reaction. You burn fuel, and then you burn it, and it comes. You remember the way the rocket works. It's like jets. It's the same principle. Puff. Steve can explain it better. And it goes, and it has to be launched into space,
Yeah.
and vanquish all the friction of air that is around it until it gets into the level of orbit, and then release the satellite or something of the sort.
Yeah.
Right?
I think
And detach itself from the satellite. So all those principles, so gravity, radiation, friction, motion, and all of these at play at the same time are
momentum.
used in predicting where it is. And that is what you call design.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But I was going to say one thing, Anne, in that, when you asked your question at 1440, I'm just coming from the back. 1440 is directly the application of the principle of duality. Because 1 unit of energy, the minimum unit of energy in the physical is the tetrahedron. But the tetrahedron being concave, what we see, never exists alone. It's always with a convex. And the convex is of the same magnitude, is another tetrahedron. And since the definition of a tetrahedron is 720 degrees, we saw that. Therefore, that of a dual is 1440. That's the only significance it means. You have a minimum, and then that minimum has a convex. It's concave, has convex, has a dual. That's the first your answer to your first question. The second thing that is it looks to me that in application of what we call, understanding what ephemeralization is the function of at minimum 2 things that we have been capable of doing with what we understand of how we burn energy, and then that is one, digitization. How small can we be? How small can our bit of energy be? And secondly, is that of the power of computation. How can we put things together? How fast can we put to recognize patterns? Because after all, it's all patterns that we recognize in order to apply, right?
How fast
So it's a function of 2 things. It's a function of how fine we divide, and how quick can we put things together. That's big data, putting things together and recognizing then patterns. Okay?
I like that.
Yes,
that kind of feeds into.
Yes. Ephemeralization also means that the principles that we see at play at gross level are also at play at very, very finest level. So if we can learn to recognize what Steve will always refer to as fractals of things. Those principles are, or those patterns are valid in the fractals. So if we're using pattern, we can use them because we can visualize, we can see them through our instrumentation. Therefore, we can use that minute energy to perform functions that wouldn't have been possible did we not have that capability of digitizing and putting together with computers. That's why Bucky is so big, talking about the power of computers. How do you put back in the computerized? And no mind will be able to kind of twist that. We can twist the interpretation, but the computer will be more impersonal into bringing to you the reality of what the pattern is.
Well, the other pattern collector generator, if we go to metaphysical, is often called the Akashic record. So, and that's that metaphysical data bank of every thought that has ever occurred, all the wisdom, all the knowledge. And so I love getting to that dual. So you're talking about that physical side of like, how do we measure? We use the computer and computer learning to crunch the big data on the physical side. And then I meet people who have the ability to use their breathing, use their mindfulness, and they can go out to the other source on the metaphysical side and find patterns that are amazing.
Yes.
So I want to be one of those people someday, but I only get these little tiny grains of stuff right now.
But both work together, Susan. You know, the capacity to digitize, the power to digitize, to cut into little pieces, goes with power to be able to be anti-entropically efficient. It goes with the power to put together also quickly and to recognize the patterns. All right? And there's a lot of things that today are in the realm of, you know, the physical that you can see, which just a few years ago were considered as magic. All right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's great.
So any thoughts here? Let's get complete before we go into a book, but let's get complete. When I think of ephemeralization, my big lesson here I got in the calls when Kelly was doing the calls was the trim tab. That was the idea of how to put a little bit of something to make a bigger difference. And how having a rudder is one thing, but put a trim tab on the rubber and it's a lot more effective. So we could talk about these things. Is there any other thoughts that have come up to anybody?
Well, I mean, the whole application of catalytic reaction in chemistry. How does that little stuff that you add change, for example, catalyze, I mean, the change of phase or something that dramatic in terms of chemical reaction? You can't do it if you didn't understand that the way things happen or experience it. You see it, you experience it, you see it, and then you start now getting into the mineralogy and all these things and try to understand what has happened. But what you experience is that something has happened dramatic because of some little stuff. In some cases, were explosions. People pay with their lives in experimenting. Joe, I'm sorry, I did steal your thunder, but I apologize.
No. I was actually, then you just turned my attention to catalytic chemistry. So I'm looking at it now. No, I mean, the ability to divide and to put things back together as fast as possible. Just something that had come up to me is this idea of that's where creative destruction kind of comes into play.
Yes.
That's what I think of.
I have a practical.
Go ahead.
I have a very practical example of that.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You talk about it a little bit more. So when I show my example, it'll make more sense.
No, I mean, the faster you divide something and you're doing something with less, you're creating something new. you're reassembling and you're making it more efficient in that process. So
May I show you a visualization of that?
please,
In real estate investing, of all things.
right.
Back
That's
in
actually
back in 1977, when I first got started in real estate, I went to a 1031 tax deferred exchange seminar, and I saw this model. And I've been teaching this model since 1977. The idea is to take a property or an asset, subdivide it up into its smallest units of value, and then reassemble those units of value in a way that has greater value than before. And so this shows a piece of vacant ground. It shows mineral rights. It shows the first lot subdivision, and then it shows an assemblage, because those 4 lots are made into 3 lots, if you can see that on level 3. And then those 3 lots are reassembled into 2 lots in order to create an 8-plex lot. So then the 8-plex get built, and then you subdivide the 8-plex into condominiums, and then subdivide the condominiums into timeshares.
Mm.
And so this is a perfect example. And I was teaching this back in 1977. Well, I learned it back in 77, and I've been teaching it ever since. And so to all of a sudden, this is where I think most of the people on the Bucky calls are already here in some aspect of their lives. And when they hear Bucky, they go, wow, that sounds familiar. You know, that is the geometry, the nature of the universe behind what's driving me, right? So this is a perfect example of a factored real estate model. And just as an example, I have real estate consultants, and one of my guys in the last 3 months was buying a 4-plex in Tucson, not far from Susan. And a couple of them looked kind of interesting to me. And he we talked about what looked good. And I said, and he liked this one particular one. I said, great. You know what dawns on me is that that's too much land for a 4-plex. Why don't you go to your city and find out how many square foot of frontage and total square foot are required to house that 4-plex, and tell me how much is left over. And one thing led to another. He spent $2,500 and created legal descriptions for 1 4-plex, totally legal, and 3 duplex lots. Those 3 duplex lots are worth $100,000. They're worth $50,000 each, with about $50,000 worth of development costs. And the 4-plex kept the same value. He had it appraised at first, all the land to it. And then I said, go back to your appraiser, tell him you want only this much land on it, see if it affects the appraisal. It did not, because a 4-plex appraisal is based on income, and income has nothing to do with extra square footage. So he closed on that property, and by doing it creatively, because he had to, I mean, he almost screwed it up a couple times. The first time he got a bridge loan and funded, he's collateralized the entire bridge loan on all 4 properties. I'm going, no, don't do that. You collateralize your loan with the least amount of asset possible. So then he refinanced it just with the 4-plex, and now the 3 lots are free and clear. And now he's made $100,000. And that's all by subdividing a thing down to its smallest unit of value and then reassembling it in a way to create the largest value.
So 2 things here. Reassembling, the term is integration in mathematics, but integration to me means so much more than a mathematical function.
Yeah.
Yeah, so multiply by dividing, and then see, it's cosmic accounting, Steve. What you're doing there in a way is cosmic accounting. You're seeing the individual shapes, the minimum structure. And you sent him back and said, what's the minimum amount of land for this piece? You were taking it back to a very Bucky principle and taking it to a cosmic accounting.
Yes.
And so, and I get challenged. I can be running through my day like normal, and then all of a sudden kind of go, I wish more often at times that I could see through and see those structures. Sometimes I can.
Yeah. And to me, all I'm showing
but
you,
not as often as I'd like.
yeah, I'm just saying these are tetrahedra. These are just units of value. You know, there are structures, there are units of value that will maintain their value. They won't disintegrate. They're integrous structures. And most people just plow through like a bulldozer and don't stop to calibrate. They don't stop to maximize or ephemeralize their asset development. So there's an
It's
example.
worse than that.
Will you share that, Steve?
It's worse.
What, Manu?
I would like you to share. I mean, at least I would like to have a copy of that.
I'll be glad. I'll put it with, since we're doing it, I'll put it with the email that goes out this week.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and see, and like Susan said, there's different languages in different disciplines. In real estate, it's subdivide and assemble, right? But in another paradigm, it's divide or calibrate, or it's fractal, or it's some other words. But the
Derivative and integration.
Yes, but the concept is the same. And I think that's what's so magnetic to each of us about Bucky, is we know he's talking about granular reality, right? So I'll be glad to attach that to the thing.
Okay.
Comments, questions, go ahead.
Okay, this is absolutely fascinating, because this is exactly what I was asking for at the beginning of our, when the meeting started, right? First and foremost, because I really enjoy Joe's fascination with ephemeralization, because the word is so big, and at the same time, it's really hard to put into context exactly what it is, right? But every time we go into Bucky, then it becomes real. So for me, the whole idea of doing more with less and doing everything with nothing is what sits with me. But whenever you bring ephemeralization in, it's like even beyond that. It's like, and the way Susan explained it earlier, right? So I'm glad you brought it up, and for us to kind of put it as one of the key things to think about in the explanations that the sharing, Stephen, of what you did with real estate, and this is essence of an example of how you've applied, how you see, you recognize, this ephemeralization in what you do. That's exactly what I was waiting for. It is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So thank you very much.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
And to me, I have more examples, but
Oh, there's a lot of examples of this. I mean, that's the basis of all merger and acquisitions, if you think about it.
so keep sharing, Joe.
Well, I mean, and it's an unfortunate. This can be used for both a positive way, but this also could be used in a negative way. If a company becomes too bloated, they start to look at the parts and what the value of the parts are, and then they look at the breakup value, and then they start to dice it up and reassemble it, and not necessarily worry about the ethical aspects of it or the consequences.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are types of concepts that can, that can be used for both good and bad. So it's something important to recognize, though. That doing more with less can come in and that can have a negative impact too. I mean, so it has to be considered within the construct of ethics.
And this is exactly Bucky's point with our book we're reading, because as he starts talking about the destiny of our planet Earth, this spaceship Earth, he talks about 14 principles that will guide us through our design. The first is the nature of universe itself, which we talked about, and then humanity. And most of these guys leave the humanity out of it, right?
Right.
And this is Senator Mitt Romney from Utah. I mean, he made his millions by finding companies, doing reverse mergers, dividing up assets, sucking out the assets, and he made all the money. And all those people lost their jobs.
Or sometimes their pensions. I mean,
and sometimes their pension funds. And this happens over and over again. So you're right. There is an ethical aspect. And I think Bucky points to that.
Right. And that's where he looks at it as something where regenerative is really important, right? It's that's the point, is that regenerative is that it continues to fulfill, what it's helping people. It's not necessarily just destroying it per se or rearranging it.
Manu wants to give us a Rorschach test.
I know what I see.
What do you see here?
A hole in the paper.
Okay. So you see a hole on the paper, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I see a round.
imagine,
Unless it's a marker.
well, it could be that if you want. Anyway, there is a distinction between two sides, you know, two parts of this. There is a hole here, and there is this,
Oh,
right?
Right.
So you are on this side, as you are seeing, and you see flows that come inside here. Flows. There's this red flow, and there is that black or whatever. You see that? Two flows.
Okay.
Or yeah. Okay, and there's this green. You see this flow? These are two flows coming in. And then you can see the distinct, you know, these distinct flows coming into through it, and you stay here, and then you start recombining them in a way that you want. Okay? I'm talking in relation to what Joe said about the mergers and acquisition, because they are supposed to say, okay, there is some synergies at play in there, and then that if they have parts recombined in a certain way, the overall result will be better. But what happens is that once you separate these and they go through this funnel and come out, they will always come back in order, you know, come back there will always be a feedback information.
Right.
Either the people who are doing it are ignorant, or they are egoistic and hypocritical in terms of staying in one phase and bagging the so-called benefit at the expense of the whole. Because the whole was always, if you want to compare things, you were to compare wholes. In fact, you know, once you have all the information of the consequences, if you compare the first thing that you were having with your altered model complete, is that altered model better? In other words, they never imagined themselves into this. That side. Or they know what is happening in that side, and they are fooling people, as you've been saying that, you know, the managerial, what you call so-called managerial entrepreneur, they capture every value that is created for themselves at the expense of the ordinary investor. So it's again a question of integrity, and integrity requires education first.
Yes.
You cannot really exercise, you know, things towards integrity if you don't know. So, and again, the importance of education.
Yeah.
Once I know, I will be able to be critical about the expected result or announced expected result of the things, of the manipulation that you have here. And what Bucky is saying is we always tweaking things in order to understand what can be the consequences, but we have to be able to assume those consequences and stand by them, right? Rather than, you know, just stay in one phase, stealing away and letting the whole stuff crumble for mortgaging future generations, or even ourselves, or people who are ignorant around us. So that's the whole principle that I think that if there is one big application of what Bucky is saying intellectually, is that do we know, are we educating, that are we in the movement of every day being involved in being open to these ideas and to things that are happening? Secondly, are we acting? Are we in the game? Are we taking risk? And thirdly, are we responsible for the outcomes of those positions that we take? So I think at least those three things are very, very important. Education, action, accountability. Education, action, accountability. Even if it is very, very local, the fact that you are accountable means that you are assuming that, and you are open to something that can be changed if it becomes evident to you. And the best evidence for things, the best position for coming across evidence, it is actual fact opening up and education and right education. At any age, we would like to impact the youngest, but it's not too late for adults because it's a lifestyle, right? It is self-disciplines, and we're going to go to that. You know, Bucky talked about that at one of his, yeah. So maybe not taking too much time, we must start reading, you know.
No, I think that this is fantastic. I mean, I really enjoyed this. I like applying Bucky's concepts to everyday life. I mean, it's important.
I'm a guy who likes graphics, and I sent Anne a little email with a handout, and I attached it, in fact, I think, to one of our Saturday night calls about this 1440 and this idea of looking at how that affects relationships. And not to go into a whole lot of detail, I think that most employers, you know, I learned a long time ago that I don't meet with an employee, look at their resume, and then tell them what I expect, and see if they're willing to go along with that. That's how I used to do it. And I found out people wanted jobs, and so they'd say anything to get a job. And then I used to turn around and then say to people, okay, what do you want in life? What's your vision in life? If you were doing this kind of business, what would you build out? What would you want to see happen? And so suddenly it goes from I give them a question and they give me an answer. So 180 and 180 is 360. Now I'm letting them generate their reality, and it comes back to me, and then I give them feedback. Now I got 720 going on. I had trouble getting to the 1440, but I think that the other part is the part we don't see, and it's how my employee or my potential employee relates to themselves and how I relate to myself. And that's the convex. That's the part I don't see. You know, do I keep my word? Am I having a good relationship with myself? Am I 360 degrees with myself? Do I, you know, for me, this meant journaling my dreams and listening to what my subconscious told me. For me, this meant doing hypnagogia each morning. I wake up a half an hour before I need to get up, and I allow myself to stay in bed with my journal and write whatever comes to me, so that I let my subconscious me, my asleep me, communicate with my awake me. There's the other, you know, I can be in a prayer, and I can sit down and gestalt with myself. I can do actual gestalt therapy. I've learned how to do this. I take that feeling inside of me and I put it in a chair and have a conversation with it, right? I can pray and say, God, this is what I want. God, this is what I want. But how much time do I sit and listen to what God wants for me, right? This is why it's what?
That's not a really great definition of prayer, telling God what I want. I thought prayer was a whole lot more about listening for what was coming back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, but
you might get no. You're probably gonna get no.
I'm not sure what everybody's saying because I missed something key on that thing. Should I pause and say what? Or is it worth talking about? Is it a critical comment or just
it's fine.
Just funny. But as I started developing a relationship with myself, and learning how hard it was for me to keep my word and what I had to do with myself to actually do what I said I would do. There's the other 720 right there. And I think you and I, each of us on this call, we're the kind of people that basically we do what we say. And I know that I've had experiences when I've listened to somebody tell me they're going to do something and I knew they were lying to themselves. And I bet you every one of you have had that experience. They're well-meaning. They really want to do something. They're saying, oh, I'm going to do that. And I'm going, there's no way in hell you're going to do that, because I know what it was for me to get from here to there. And I don't see you showing up with the skills to do that, right? To me, that's the other 1440, is how I relate with myself, my unconscious self, my subconscious self, my divine self, my spirit self. And then how does that person relate to the unseen, their subconscious? There's the other 720. And that's the unseen 720. 360 for me, where I ask myself questions and give myself feedback, and where I let my subconscious ask me questions and I give it feedback. Now, I know that sounds really strange to most people. What? How does that happen? Well, I'm writing a book on that called Extreme Mindfulness, and I hope to be talking about journaling and how hypnagogia and how prayer and can be part of this 720 of me relating to myself. Make sense? So I'd like to have pictures of all that, and I think they'll be in my book. I started those and sent them to you, Ann. You've seen that email. But that's what I'm talking about in that email. Is I'm talking about that unseen, kind of unspeakable relationship that I have with God, or my spirit me, or my higher power, or my lazy ass me that I don't want to admit exists, right?
I love the lazy ass me.
Yeah.
It's a delight to find that person. Like, now that all the kids are out of the house, like, to have that slice of that. Ooh.
Well, when I can love that part of me, I know I'm in love, that I'm okay with myself, right? I've totally forgiven myself for being a human being. I don't know. Comments, questions? Go ahead.
No, it was just something that is on the logistics here. You know, I noticed that we can only direct message. I can only direct message to Steve. I don't have access to any other participant.
Well, that shouldn't be.
That's how it is for me.
Try it again and see if Joe sent out a message to everyone, Manu. And
Yeah,
you
no,
sent out a
I'm
message to
saying,
everyone.
Joe sent to me, but I can't. I don't see it on my drop down here.
Yeah,
I just see Steve.
so Manu cannot direct message Joe. Manu can direct message you, or he can hand out to everybody.
I've never intended that to happen. Maybe I did. No, it says participant can chat with everyone. That's what my thing says here.
Oh, wow. That's great, Susan.
Susan, everyone.
Yeah, but I can't direct message Manu.
You can't?
No.
No.
Okay, but it's fine. It's okay.
Oh, I'm going to make a
So
note of
let's
that.
continue. We'll look at that later.
I'm gonna
Let's
say-
not waste time on it.
It's really easy. It's just, you just change it under the settings.
I got to go into my settings. Yeah, I will.
Okay.
My,
So maybe
my current
let's start
settings don't
reading.
allow me to do that.
Okay. I may disappear for a bit. I need to, I mean on screen. I just need to copy what was in the chat into my notes online. Okay, just
Well, now
into-
there's a couple
I'm
ways to
here,
do
I'm here.
that. You see the three dots over there? It says save
Mhm.
chat. The trouble is, if you do that, you're saving the chat for that moment. And I actually put the chat in each of the emails each week. There are times when I don't, because there's nothing in the chat. And there are times when I don't because I forget. But I download the complete chat on the server, everything. Because the problem with you downloading the chat is if you come in late, you didn't get everything before. And if you leave or if you step out or something happens. But the chat, you can save the chat right now if you want to, Ann. You'll see on the three dots. And just before the end of the call, you can save the chat. And I do put it in each of the emails. Okay? They go out.
Thank you. It's just that I have a page on my pages where I put everything that you guys we talk about that I think is critical for me. So I put them, into this this page that I have. So it's on. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yep. Got it.
Joe's mad because he had everything in his book and he can't find that book.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. That's
Mm.
anxiety.
That's anxiety. Any other comments or questions on what we've talked about so far?
Where's my book?
Yeah,
It will realize when it's the
It's-
right time.
Yeah, I guess so. It's
it's called ephemeralization, Joe. It's doing more with less, dude.
I'm not I'm not trying to imply that principle right now.
Okay. Well, we still have
I'm
some.
sleeping less too, and it's like it's not helping.
It's not helping. So we can go ahead and pick up our reading from last week, or we can continue our discussion. What's the vote? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. What's our vote? Shall we pick up the book or continue to talk about Bucky principles?
I think we can pick up the book.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
pick up the book.
Okay, good. All right, then I will share.
How's Kelly doing?
I heard from him this last week that he was doing really, really well. And then, oh, I know where it is. It's right next here. There's the book. And then he said he'd be here, but I didn't get an email from him either, so I don't know what's going on. Okay, good. So we left off last week with Bucky talking about what the Greeks did with the 180 degrees and the cyclic unity of 360, ergo two triangles, but he assumed in 1977, Bucky himself assumed unity is plural at a minimum of 2. And so I'm sure that's where we're going to see where we go from here.
You know, that's the year, World War I is starting in 1916. Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't even a glimmer on my mother's eye. I'm not, she was born yet. I think she was born in 2023.
My grandmother wasn't born yet.
Oh, my grandmother was born in the 1800s. Okay. So, Joe, how are you feeling tonight? You want to read?
I'll do my best John Butler impression.
Okay.
He shouldn't have been gone for 2 weeks, though.
I agree.
I hope he listens to that recording. Where the stable?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
The stable structural behavior of a whole triangle, which consists of 3 edges and 3 individually and independently unstable angles, or a total of 6 components, is not predicted by any one of two its angles or edges taken by themselves. The 6 edges of the 2 triangles can and frequently do associate with one another, one as left helix and the other as a right helix, to form a 6-edged tetrahedron, which, having 4 triangular faces, gives synergetic demonstration of 4 triangles occurring as the result of associating only 2 triangles. Incidentally, the right and left helixes formed of the 2 triangles, respective sets of 3 edges, each constitute the vectorial modeling in conceptual array of the positive and negative half spins, or half quanta, corresponding respectively to the proton set and
Oops, sorry. Hang on. Oh, geez.
and Steve.
And I didn't mean to do that. Here we go. Page down. And
The neutron set consisting of neutron, positron, and neutrino. Neutrino. Thank you. On the left hand, and the proton, electron, and antineutrino on the right hand. Together, these 6 make one quantum unit, which is identified as the tetrahedron.
okay, good. Comments or questions?
So Manu, can you tell us how he got from 2 triangles to make a tetrahedron.
I was
I'm-
trying this. Let me get to see if I have.
The part I didn't get was this. The six edges of the two triangles can and frequently do associate with one another, one as a left helix and the other as a right helix. I did not get that at all.
So the only thing I can think of is if you have two triangles in a plane and you rotate one to the left and one to the right and then impose them. But now you've popped up a dimension by doing that rotation.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense, what you're saying.
Manu, am I getting there?
No, I think,
Let me
yeah,
just put it.
we've
Do you
seen an
see this
image
one?
like that.
Okay, hang on. We're
Do
going
you
to
see the
stop.
butterfly?
Yeah.
This is a butterfly, this blue, huh? Or green.
Origami.
Yeah. This is two triangle, which helix Y came that way. You have the anti of this that comes like this. Bam. If I can have, I unfortunately don't have another color, but you can excuse this guy that is white. Let me put it this way.
You got to hold him up a little higher because we can't see him down there.
He's still putting them together. Okay.
Right? Bam.
Because each of them has its convex.
Yeah, that one is convex. One is something that is two convex that are opposed. Right? It's
They're both convex
two
structures. They're both
two
convex
concave that
structures.
are opposed. One is right, the other one is left. This is right. You see the way this one is turned? This one is turned, these faces. You know, I have these edges just for you to see.
Right.
That's the way this one is turned, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you see, or can you see?
Yes, we
can.
can.
Am I on the big screen or not?
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
You're
I
on
can
my
put you
big
on there.
screen, but I don't know. You may be in gallery view with the recording, but you're on my big screen.
You're in gallery view on my recording.
Okay.
But I
So,
see it.
but do you see this thing? One, right? It is this
Yeah.
way. If I shave this that way, you will see how it is. You see that?
Yes.
Mm.
Okay.
So
Now,
where's the helix in that? Where's the helix?
what is here? The hedge is a helix. It's
All right.
oriented.
So the
It's not on
head,
the plane.
it's the ridge pole in the jitterbug thing. He said we've got these diamonds and we've got ridge pole diamonds. That's a diamond right there, and there's the ridge pole between his fingers, between Manu's
Yeah, but
fingers.
any edge is actually two triangle coming together. That's what defines the edge.
Edges associating, like he said.
Yes.
And that's a
All
helix.
right. So one comes this way on my left hand side. The other one comes that way on my right hand. You see the
Right.
difference?
Yes,
And then the two come together like that.
right on.
Okay?
Now we have a tetrahedron.
This is the left spin, this is the right spin.
Okay.
Because half a spin is a phase. That's one, two, and the two come together. You remember that if you take them like this, they might be the same stuff. It might be two triangles coming together onto two edges here. But once they come, one comes embracing, is like embracing. You know, you have your lips open, but one is left, the other one is right. You can't have an embrace with all the two lips, us facing. I can't embrace somebody all facing the same direction. Can we? We have to face opposite, left and right. This is just a metaphor to quickly explain what he's talking about there.
Right.
Wow.
Does everybody see?
From triangles that are first dissociated, like this, they were plane, and then coming into an helix, like that way, and then also coming this way,
Yeah, we've seen photos of this, like with,
and then coming together. So it's a duality of a duality.
Yeah, so let's read it again and see if we can use that visualization to make it happen. Joe, do you want to start again and we'll just go down through and make sure that we see this happening?
absolutely. The stable structural behavior of a whole triangle, which consists of 3 edges and 3 individually and independently unstable angles, or a total of 6 components.
Let's
is
stop
n-
right there. Because I'm not sure I understand individually and independently unstable.
Individually and independently unstable just means there's no connections. There's no
3
F-
edges. There are
there's-
3 edges. These 3 edges are individual edges and they're independently unstable edges. There's a total of 6 components.
If
Yes.
they're individual, they're unstable.
But when they come together, they create, so a triangle is a minimum stable form in 2D,
Right.
if that helps.
No, it
So
helps
let's-
very well. Let me just put it like this. You see this?
Hang on.
You know, each is a segment of something, right?
Right,
This is not stable, it's unstable.
right.
Okay. So if I take even 2, they are still unstable.
Right.
Okay.
Then you put your third edge.
Now I need to add these 2. Don't predict that if I do this and that, this stability, it doesn't predict it. Stability means that the form is conserved. So whatever I turn it, I still have 3 times 60 degrees angles here. I still have the edges that are the same length. That's what's called stability.
Okay, so how is it 3 individually and independently unstable angles?
Well, if I
Take them
this
apart.
one
If I take them apart, the angles are unstable.
Unstable.
is stable. It's stable. What form does it conserve?
Yeah.
What it is?
Yeah, and so
It's just a
Manu,
line.
and so Manu, if you take the green one and connect it to the yellow one, you have
If I take the green one
right,
and connect it, let's say to the red one.
Okay, to
because
the red
that's
one.
the one.
you have an angle and it's
Yes.
unstable. It's
It's
unstable.
not stable because this angle is changing. Look at this.
Okay, good. And then if you take the red one and connect it to the yellow one, it's unstable.
If
Take
I
off the-
take, yes, okay, let's take the red one and connect to the yellow one. It's unstable. It's still
unstable.
unstable, but it is already a convex triangle
Right,
because this will naturally seek to come and close.
right. And when it closes, it's depending on the length of the yellow as to what angles are going to be in that thing. So they're unfixed angles prior, but when that yellow thing sets in, bam, it's fixed based on the length of the yellow thing. This is a regular
when it
triangle,
closes, is 180 degrees.
right?
All the 3 angles stuck together. They are stuck in a form.
Whether it's a regular triangle or whether it's an irregular triangle, that thing
Yes.
could be squished down to, the yellow thing could be 1 millimeter tall and the green would connect to it. It would be a squished down triangle, but it would be a triangle and it would be stable.
Exact. It is fun. But
Everybody got that?
this form is unpredicted by that only. It's
Yep.
unpredicted.
Yeah. And I'm going to just pursue this logic. If the yellow one were connected to the red one, it would be unpredictable. If the yellow one's connected to the green one, it's unpredictable. But you put all 3 of those things together and bam, they lock in. And now unpredictably, those 3 things came together and that's the shape it is. And now it's a triangle and now it's set.
Or if you have 2 pairs.
Yeah.
That is 2 pairs with 1 element being common of them. So this is 1 pair, the red and the yellow.
Yeah.
And the other pair is the red and the green.
Right on. Then you connect
When
them.
you do that, because energy is flowing here, energy is coming this way and going out that way. So this is positive, that is this negative, that is positive. Gravitational thing. So this positive and this negative are necessarily by principle going to try to come together to close, to make the form stable. Stable also means 0 charge.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take the next
You get
word.
me? So
Yes.
the total electric energy of this is 0.
Yeah. Everybody got that? let's move to the
Yes.
next sentence. The next sentence says, the 6 edges of the 2 triangles can and frequently do associate with one another. So this is where the 2 triangles, hold up the 2 triangles. One is left helix and the other is right helix.
Let me make another one. Just give me a second. So I make
To form a 6th edge tetrahedron.
yeah. Let me
Trying to
just
put
make
those. I'm trying to put those together. You're putting some stuff together for us, Manu?
Yeah, I'm putting 2 different colors so that we have a red triangle and a yellow triangle. Okay.
Okay.
That's for visuals.
I'm going to give you the definition of helix, and I'm going to put it in the chat box. Let's see if we all
Okay.
agree with this.
Yeah, I have a 2. See?
Okay, there's your 2 triangles, 6 edges. Everybody see the 6 edges?
Yes.
Okay. Keep talking, Manu.
No, just continue because you wanted to illustrate something. With
Oh,
the text. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's everybody sees the 6 angle. By the way, an object having 3-dimensional shape like that of a wire round uniformly in a single layer around a cylinder or cone is a corkscrew or spiral staircase. What does that have to do with helix? That was the definition of helix.
A corkscrew is a helix, isn't it? Corkscrew goes like this.
All right, good. In chemistry, a curve or conical or cylindrical surface that would become a straight line if the surface were unrolled into a plane. In biochemistry, an extended spiral chain of atoms in a protein, a nucleic acid, or other polymeric molecule. So that's what Bucky says. He's describing the helixes that that Manu is showing us right now.
If those were nodes, that would be it. Well, no, that's completely off topic. Never mind.
I don't know if node is off topic or not, because is a helix a node? A helix is something wound around itself, right?
No, yeah, it's completely different.
The 6 edges of the 2 triangles can and
is-
frequently do associate with one another, one as a left helix and the other as a right helix.
You can see it here.
Okay.
This is a double edge. Yeah, I've replaced it with the green. This is what it does.
Yeah.
Right? Now you have one like this, and the other one is blue. Let me just put it that way. Let me do it entirely blue, and it will make sense.
Yeah, I do believe it does. So we got a yellow triangle and a red triangle. They hook together, swivel around, and smack together with a blue vector or a blue edge. And now you have your tetrahedron.
Let me just see this. Can you just hold on a second? You're gonna see it nicely now. Do you see this one?
Yeah.
So this is the left helix, this is the right helix. And guess what? They embrace not face to face like this, but like that. Boom. They embrace like this. And you have a tetrahedron.
Hmm.
Do you see?
Yes.
This is a tetrahedron. It took 2 pairs. One right, one left, and they come to embrace.
We had a picture that really showed how this worked.
Yeah, let me open this again. You can open it like that. You can open it. You see this now? This is open. You can see at least one embrace here. This is open like that. You can still see the 2 blue triangle. That one is open. If I do this, I close it. This is now a concave tetrahedron.
Yeah.
And you always, remember that the duality always play at each level. In order to get into higher dimension, you need to have a duality always.
Right.
That's why is the power of two. The dimension game is actual fact the exponential of a logarithm of 2 to the power of something. You get me?
Okay. Yeah. And let's stick with these words here, because now I think we can visualize these words. The stable structure behavior of a whole triangle, which consists of 3 edges and 3 individually independently unstable edges, or a total of 6 components.
I'm realizing after seeing the demonstration how much easier he could have written that.
The
You
stable-
realize that a triangle has 6 components. A triangle has 6 variables. It has the edges, the length of the edges,
Yep. And the vectors,
and then the angles.
the angles of
Yes.
the vectors.
And
So
then you can vary all of those by 6, to make a triangle. Every time that you change one of those, it compensates somewhere, but it form a triangle of a different shape,
Yeah. But
of
everybody
a
has it now.
different triangle, yes.
And so everybody has the 6 components, right? There are 3 vectors or 3 angles, 3 points, 3 angles, and there are the 3 edges that connect them. So that
Yeah.
means each one has 6 elements. Got it? Now, the 6 edges of the 2 triangles, now we double that,
Yes.
they do associate with one another. One is a left helix, the other is a right helix, to form a 6-edged tetrahedron with having 4 triangular faces. It gives synergetic demonstration of the 4 triangles occurring as the result of associating only 2 triangles.
Yes.
And we just had that demonstrated. And so I'm pretty sure it's pretty clear. Bondo did a pretty good job. Go back and watch this part again. And then he continues, incidentally, the right and left helixes formed of the 2 triangles' respective sets of 3 edges each constitute a vectorial modeling in conceptual array of the positive and negative half spins or half quanta corresponding respectively to the proton set. Now, I'm gonna worry about this. The proton set and the neutron set, consisting of a neutron, positron, and neutrino. I don't think there's a neutrino. I think there's, and I've been studying atom structures lately, and they talk about like a helium atom and a hydrogen atom. Those are your 2 basic things. Hydrogen is 1 and the helium, I think, is 2. And I'm not sure there's neutrinos in there, but he seemed to think so at the time. Does anybody know?
Let me just show that quickly, please.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. You see the 3 components here. The green, the red, and the yellow. Do you see that?
Yeah. Sure.
Yes. Yep.
Now, if the green and the yellow can come together, right?
Right.
So what does it mean of a green and the yellow in terms of charge?
You said that one has 0 charge. Oh, green and yellow.
No. Yes, each. They were opposite charge in order to attract. Okay?
Well, he's not
Name
talking
you
about
one.
charge here. He's not talking about charge here. He's talking about positrons and neutrons.
That charge, see, please. Let me repeat this again. You see these 3. If the green, you see here, if the green can be attracted to the yellow like that, I'm not forcing anything. You see that? They come naturally. As soon as I get close enough, they come together. If the 2 are coming together physically, it means that the green, for example, is positive and the yellow is negative, or
Exactly.
the yellow is negative and the green is positive.
Sure.
Okay. Now, if this was positive and that is negative, and the whole is 0, is stable, what does it mean of a red? It means the red is
Zero.
neutral, is neutrino, is the
Ah.
silent element that is there to allow the structure to close. Let me repeat it again.
I don't
One.
think you need to. Everybody got it, right? Did everybody get that?
That's nice.
If we're not going to say we got it, then go ahead, Manu, say it again.
Okay. For the yellow and the green to come together, they got to be of opposite electric charge.
Right on.
Or magnetic, it doesn't, it doesn't matter. They have to be opposite. Right?
Right.
So they come together like this. But we know that the triangle, when it closes, it has a neutral charge that is 0. So if it is closing at the 0, and then one is positive, the other is negative, what is the third member? The third member is 0 charge. You get me?
So Manu, what you're saying is that, let's say if you don't close the yellow and the green, right? And so the green and the red already has a relationship, which is, it is a negative, and the red would be neutral. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is unstable. Look at this. This is unstable because these two are charged one sign and the yellow is charged another sign. It is unstable. It is convex. It is a triangle, but it is convex. We know that in terms of definition, it has 6 angles, 6 edges, but it's not closed. Conceptually, it's a convex triangle. It's open. So, but if it comes like that, it's closed now. It is stable. And that is the way you have to try here. And if you really want to, for your student at early age to understand what they call spin, this is kind of application that you have to show them so that they get the concept of charge without mixing it with the magnitude of a length here. We're talking about charge. It can be this length, this double length, but just being of a charge that is equivalent in magnitude to the charge of a yellow one. It doesn't matter. You get me?
Okay.
So it was in relationship because Steve talked about the neutrino, what is the neutrino? And the neutrino element is there, but it's of neutral charge. But it's part of the structure.
And so is a neutron.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, well, I have drawn a little chart here. Let's see if I can get it to work. That's interesting. I'm not getting it to do what I want it to do, but it might be good enough. So here's the triangle, and these are the magnets up here. That's not a very good minus sign, but if this is positive and this is negative, then those two are going to attract at that point. If this one's positive, then this one has to be negative, so it needs to connect to a positive one. There's your triangle. And if this is positive, that has to be negative, and it's got to connect to a positive. And if this is positive, that has to be negative, and voila, you've got a
exact. Steve, so you've shown that the whole triangle, its charge is neutral. That's
zero.
why it's stable.
Neutral, because
Stable
it's
means
minus, plus, minus,
yes.
plus, minus.
Yes. Stable means no bias. That's what stable means. No bias. Left
Cool.
or right bias. There's no bias.
Okay, did everybody get that?
Yes.
Yep.
Cool.
Nice.
I hope that helped. Okay, so going back to these words, oops. Oops. There we go. And then we have to go down here very slowly. My problem is I have all of you guys stuck at the bottom of my screen. So I can't get to the bottom of this page very nicely. There we go. So we got it now. Three stable structure behavior of a whole triangle, which consists of three edges and three individually and independently unstable angles, or a total of six components, three angles, three edges. It's not predicted by anyone. Not predicted by any one or two of its angles or edges taken by themselves. The six elements of the two triangles can frequently associate with one another. One is a left and one is a right helix. And once they do, they create a six-edged tetrahedron having four triangular faces, which gives synergetic demonstration of four triangles occurring as a result of associating the two triangles. I think we finally got that. Manu showed that fairly well, right?
Yeah.
Incidentally, the left, what? Did
The
Manu
left
show that?
helix. Yeah, he did.
Okay, good. Incidentally, the left and right helixes formed of the two triangles, respective sets of three edges, each constitute the vectorial modeling in conceptual array of the positive and negative half spins, half quanta corresponding respectively to the proton set and the neutron set. There we are at the top of the thing. I'm not sure about the neutrino, but that's what he says. And on the left hand, and the proton, electron, and antineutrino on the right side. I'm not sure I understand that or I agree with it from my stupid little knowledge. So he must have known something I didn't know, which is totally feasible since I'm a knucklehead.
You have 2 and 2 coming together to make 4.
I got
Like
that, but the use of he's using an electron and an antineutrino. From my understanding of neutrinos, these things are there's 10,000 neutrinos going through your thumb every millisecond. Neutrinos are permeating everywhere. So I'm not sure that
did
how
you
he's
see?
using neutrino.
Okay, if you talk about half quantum, yeah. Do you see the tetrahedron is a quantum?
Absolutely correct. And
Okay, one half like this coming into the other is half quantum, right?
exactly.
Half coming to do this.
That's how we get our 720 degrees. That's how we get
Exactly.
our wine dance.
Right. Now, once they do the half coming like that, okay,
What?
you have the positron, the negatron, and the neutron, because every triangle, we just demonstrated that every triangle has a positron, a negatron conceptually, and a neutron. So of the 6 edges, you're going to have 2 positron, 2 negatron, and 2 neutrons.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and he called it a neutrino, which
Well, I'm just talking in terms of newt. Yes.
and then he goes on to say, to finish that sentence, that those elements together, these 6, make one quantum, which is identified as a tetrahedron. And that's what the goal is.
Yeah, bro. That's it.
All right. So any comments or questions on that? At least on the conclusion, we get that the 6 make up a quantum unit identified as a tetrahedron.
Yes.
Any comments or questions on that?
So, and Steve, that is very well illustrated by you remember the wine dance and the thing that you have there, like showing the 4 phases.
Sure.
4 quarters. You just showed it some time ago.
Yeah, I just showed it a minute ago and I'll show it again. There we go. And then I got to go to here and there's our wine dance. That's the quantum over, that's the positive, and that's the negative. 360 degrees up here and 360 degrees down here makes 720 degrees, which makes a quantum. And the top part is half a quantum, and the bottom part is half a quantum, and together they are a quantum. Right? And this we had this handout a while ago. This is when I was really committed to creating artifacts. So I will put
That is
this
it.
together.
Steve, that, right.
What? I'm going to include the wine dance in this, in the email that goes out, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I also want to show you something about the tetrahedron, since we're there punctuating tetrahedron. Here we go. The result is identified as a tetrahedron. I found out today, in fact, that in 2001 movie by Stanley Kubrick was co-written with Arthur C. Clarke, who'd written a short story upon which the 2001 movie is based. And I'm here to tell you that the original set for 2001 showed the monolith as a tetrahedron. Isn't that cool? In 2001, when they discovered the monolith, it wasn't a cuboid. Thank you, Anne. It wasn't a rectangular cube, a cuboid. It was a tetrahedron. Here's one rendering, and I'm sorry, that's a carbon dioxide extractor. And this is the actual set of the movie. When they were building the set, they actually had a tetrahedron in there at the beginning of that movie, and then later changed it to a cuboid. Little side issue there. Okay. Comments or questions? I think we're on a roll, and I think we should go for the next paragraph. What do you think, Joe? Do you have any John Butler left in you? You're on mute, my friend.
I'll channel it. I'll channel my inner John Butler.
Really good.
I'll sue somebody tomorrow on Monday too. Triangle, that whatever is in the way there, yes. So triangles as conceived by the Greeks are synergetic. The Greeks went on to demonstrate the corollary of synergy, to wit, that he known behavior of the whole and the known behavior of some of the components makes possible predictions of the behavior of each and all of other previously unknown components. The Arabs' algebraic functions and all the modern derivatives, including the calculus and synergetic strategies. The synergetic
Keep going.
Okay. The synergetic strategy of proceeding from the whole to discover discrete local particulars within the whole was demonstrated powerfully once again a century ago in Euler's topology, which reduced all patterning of the universe to lines, intersections of lines called vertexes, and the areas bound by three or more intersecting lines. Euler found a constant mathematical relationship of all these three fundamental aspects of pattern, i.e. V plus A equals L plus 2.
Comments or questions?
Beautiful. We've all done this in the past, are we not?
Yeah.
No, we've really done this in detail.
Yeah.
That's
I
why I
wanna
wish
say
I had my notes.
Yeah. And I want to say I said vortexes, I meant vertexes. Okay. I used the wrong word. So
Did you or
vertex
did
is
I?
the right word. I used the wrong word. You read the right word. It's right there.
It's interesting. The Arabs were the house of wisdom, right? That's where algebraic functions that they're talking about. And then, anyway, I don't know. I don't want to go into that. But
Algebra is simply abstraction. Is symbolism, taking our symbolism, symbols and putting, how do you call it? Putting relationship and functions to make that as whole. In algebra, you say, this character of Joe, I call it X. Steve, I call it Y. And then I can start putting operators between the family of X and the family of Y's to find something else that makes sense.
Okay, let's continue.
So derivation would not have been easier to do if they were not algebra. Because we know in calculus that when you calculate derivatives, and when you come in to integration now, there's always a constant left. We just call it constant. And in order for you to be able to find the exact thing that it meant, you need to fix the boundaries. You need to define boundaries very clearly. Otherwise, it's impossible to take parts of something that you are disassemble to put them back together to make the original. And the power of what he's saying is that if you knew of synergy and you know calculus, that is how to divide, now you can put back together and predict that when I put back together those parts or part of a part, the natural process will tend to kind of form of a thing. So I know that if I'm building a house, if I build walls, I put foundation first.
Right.
Then I build walls, I put windows, and I build a roof. I can assemble that together. That's how you do, for example, building that is prefabricated. Because you know the way you are going to assemble it. You become predictive. These are actual fact application of those things.
Right.
The whole 3D printing is based on that.
Okay, comments or questions? All righty. We could read, but I think it's probably a good time now. Because he's going to get into Kepler. And so let's save that for next mind-blowing week. Okay, good. All righty then. Okay, so Anne, how are you feeling and what's your takeaway tonight?
Okay, I feel as usual very sad that the sometimes actually when we go through this, we don't know how we feel at the end of the day. I think that's exactly how I feel. I don't know how I feel. Okay. And, but one thing I got away is I would really love to see what Manu sees in his head when he talks about all these formulations and and so on. So, but thank you so much, Manu, for always taking the trouble to pull together. And do you actually have those triangles sitting around the table?
Yeah.
That you, when you need it,
I have
pull
a
it together?
treasure under my desk here. I try to, when my cleaner comes, make sure that she doesn't, yeah, you have them.
You
We have
bet.
artifacts that we build over the years that we just make handy.
I sleep with my magnets.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Wow. Joe, do you have them too?
No, I have to order them. I'm stuck with Shishibos all
Yeah,
over the
see,
place.
we have these
Oh, wow.
Shishiba. We have
I'm gonna
these
have to get those things too.
See,
This is the moon. Right here.
by the way, I try to get shishibo or whatever. I can because they're out. I mean, they don't have stock.
They're sold out.
Yep. Amazon.
Oh,
You can't believe that.
It's blame it on Susan.
And they say they don't know when they are going to have stock. They
Amazing.
cannot say.
Wow.
Anna,
Okay.
have you got yours?
Who, me? No.
Yes. Did you
It's
order
not the first thing I'll go out to look for. Yeah, but it looks like I'll have to. But thank you very much. So that's my takeaway. Okay. Yeah, Susan, what is your how do you feel and what is your takeaway today?
I wish that I could see the applications, like you said, Anne, better in my own life, in my own field. Sometimes they just pop out and it's wonderful. Steve, your example with real estate was like tremendous, and it's makes me feel like I really don't have any good excuses for being in such, for not being in way better financial shape. Because Bucky's given us some insight into generalized principles and ways that we could build better. And so I'd like to, you know, for the good of all, I would love to be applying better. Yeah, I think that yeah, just getting into those moments of thinking about ephemeralization and getting, so for me, the definition of leverage is doing more with less. And the definition of ephemeralization is doing everything with nothing. And so that's kind of my those definitions have been kind of how I've approached it. So I think that there may come a moment where we can approach ephemeralization, and I would like that. Joe, how do you feel and what are you taking away?
Feeling very fortunate. I really enjoyed. Thank you everybody for coming tonight. I really enjoyed the practical applications in the discussion as well, the real estate aspect of it. I really thought that actually started to make some of the things that we talked about as real, but I also really appreciated Manu's demonstrations of how quickly, what was really impressive was just how quickly he was able to take words and make something real out of it, and relate it to even things like physics as well. So for me, that's always a privilege and a pleasure to witness that. I do wish I really do, and all kidding aside, I am getting a little anxious if I don't have my book, because we have covered some of these topics in the past, and to look back and just to see some of the things that I've written may help, you know, kind of help with, you know, connecting the dots a little bit more. I also feel like I need to get some magnets. So that is, you know, those are my takeaways. And yeah, and again, gratitude to everybody for their contributions, what they've shared, and it would not be a normal Saturday night if I didn't see everyone. So it actually brightens my day. It's a long day, and I got a long day tomorrow, so it's nice to have this. Manu, my friend, how are you doing, and what are you taking away from today?
I really feel very gratified. Really, I mean, the first application we're talking about of Bucky is here. Show up.
Right.
You snooze, you lose. Yeah, I mean, Kelly is trying to demonstrate all the time, in spite of his state, he's showing up. So that is what you call commitment. That is the first, you know, it is, you know, respect for others and the appreciation of what's been brought forth at a cost. There's always a cost to anything. It's a principle. So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm honored. The second thing the thing that I really take away is Steve's application. I really want Steve, sorry, Steve, to put you on to really kind of, I mean, just maybe one session of real estate applications, maybe you and Wayne or something of the sort, you know, because you guys, the two of you have the most extensive experience of that in practice and things, you know, to put in something. I mean, Wayne with 101, you know, lessons of his practice, and you with all what you've done, you know, as a teacher, as a mentor, just come up with one powerful session. I think it will be very, very beneficial to whoever.
Got it
really.
this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's really, I don't know, it's not a takeaway, it's an invite, it's a challenge to Steve and Wayne. to come up. You know, I'll support you guys with my limited experience, but you know, you are the masters. So that's what I really wish, and that's what I would say I take away. Steve, how do you feel? What do you take away?
Well, I'm real excited. I'm delighted to share. I'm grateful that you're here with your magnets, Manu. I think that I actually, even though I'm having trouble with the neutrino word that Bucky used, I think I understood the concept that he was trying to put together. I certainly understand the helix with things folding around themselves. So that was really good. And when you took the two ridgepole diamonds and you wrapped them around and created a double bond tetrahedron, I got that. That was really cool. So I think that's wonderful. And we have the coolest people on this call. Susan, your experience and how you take me into the ozone every once in a while. That's really cool. And I'm so excited for your energy on the call, Joe. We really should have you share some of your, some of the things, because you and I have talked about the way you've seen how data is handled,
Right.
how big data is handled and how it misdirects a lot of people, and how there are ways to do more with less if you're looking at the right data set.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could probably talk about that one of these nights when you could slow down enough to put something together. That would be really fun. And you, as Susan pointed out, you are the you know, you're the one who's putting this out. You're on the front line. I mean, in the last year, you've been in how many countries? You've been all the way around the world, sharing your vision of education and the hope for humanity. And that's why I'm on this call. That's why I'm reading the book Oblivion or Utopia. It's up to me and you. And as long as you guys are here with me, we're in pretty good hands. We're in good hands. All right, you guys, I'm complete. We'll see you next week. On Wednesday, I send out the recording. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Right on.
Yep.
I was just
Everybody-
going to say, you being a machine conjugating to harness the power of design.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
See you soon.